Perfect.
All right. What up? What up? We are live. We're going to be tackling some Underdog Fantasy drafts. We got one of Underdog Fantasy's own, Hayden Winks, on with us. We're going to do a rookies and sophomores draft first. You guys, if you watched last week's live stream, we did a couple of those drafts. And then we'll also tackle a Superflex Big Board draft, which is basically just, a best ball draft, but it's Superflex this time. First time, I believe it's the first time you guys are doing Superflex on Underdog, right?
Yeah, we have all these months to do regular drafts. So we're keep trying to think of ways to throw a little wrinkle into something. I think we're going to keep changing the player pools. Superflex was an easy one. Otherwise, if we just kept doing regular half PPR best ball, we would have nothing to talk about. So I hope we're going to do Best Ball Mania 3 and I'll be massive. And then all the other stuff will be random one-off things when we get sick and tired of doing regular drafts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I will say that this new wrinkle of Superflex has been very, very interesting just to see how, in general, the ADP's adapted, the actual user base has adapted. Because, man, we'll get into it when we get into that draft as well. But there's a lot of advantages to be taken care of right now.
Yep. Totally agree.
For sure. But, all right. So I'm going to queue up a rookies and sophomores draft here. We'll probably just draft. We thought we'd be we'll try and get Danny in it as well and time it so we'd get into the same draft or whatever. But I figured it's probably easier if we all just kind of talk about the same team. Oh, that's going to happen. Cool.
Oh, what was going on?
Yeah. There, so we'll get all of our opinions on these picks. We'll see how much we agree on. I've seen, I guess. Okay. This is nice. Danny, do you want to try sharing your screen?
We'll get through a couple comments and then I'll share the screen and we'll roll. But what's up, boys? We got the Noti gang in here from Brock, Peyton, and Spicy. Gotta love it. Notification gang, finally catching a stream. We got the moderator, Mr. Blue Wrench himself, Spicy
Hot Taco. Nice.
Yeah, he's a classic.
Absolutely love it. Here, I'll share my screen then.
Yeah, he goes, let me get some free Underdog bucks. Let's do it. Yeah, I've seen. So Hayden, you've been digging into the prospects recently. I've noticed you putting out a lot of, threads and not threads, but tweets about these guys. Yep. Are you kind of just getting into them now or have you been doing it the whole time? But now that the combine's out of the way and most of the pro days are done, we're getting some concrete information about these guys.
Yeah. So I try to ignore it until the Super Bowl. And then after the Super Bowl, I start getting into the prospects. First step for me is to get my model ready so I can know who to prioritize. It's really easy to do at this point. Just takes a couple minutes. And then from there, it's just watching the prospects. I don't want to be a total analytics bro with all these prospects. There's way too much context with it. So I try to watch as much tape as I can before I start giving too many of my opinions. And sometimes I'm wrong about that, but it's at least more fun. I think the content is better. Nothing like I hate when people just keep hitting us with these acronyms, and then you're just stat. And you're okay, well, what the fuck is he going to be doing at the next level? So I want to make sure I'm not doing that and adding all the context when needed.
Bro, I know Whopper was brought up in a conversation the other day. I'm my brain immediately went to fucking the burger.
Yeah, they're scaring the hose with Whopper and all those things. That's why whenever I'm doing my analytics, I just do percentiles. I'm all right, adjusted production, just athleticism, and then the percentile, and don't worry about what's going on in the back end. I just want to give you something and then bring up the film so I'm not scaring anybody away.
And I'll just quickly say too, I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of times, it's so easy to just, data pick and see, this guy meets this threshold, this guy meets that threshold, he's probably good. But until you actually see him, until you actually can contextualize what's actually going on in these games, I don't understand how people can just completely stick to one or the other. It's good to have that blend. It's good to have that mixture. And that's something myself and Corey have kind of talked about on the side too.
I literally won't talk about a player until I watch them. People ask me oh, should I draft this guy? I'm I haven't watched him yet. I don't know. Yeah. I have, a model similar to what you have, obviously. And I go through and I go, okay, this guy is popping. This guy looks like he's pretty decent. And I'll watch these guys kind of in that priority order because I know who looks good on paper. And I am, a guy that when I see something, I like to cross-reference it to numbers, but I have to watch the player before I give an opinion. I just watched all morning today. I was going into George Pickens and I had a field day on Twitter tweeting out some negative stuff about George Pickens because I was very disappointed, to be honest. So we might talk about him in this draft, but cool. Let's get it queued up.
Yeah,
Sweet.
For sure.
Worst case, the film stuff is fun. People enjoy that content more than the freaking stats stuff. So even if we're kind of guessing with some of the stuff, it's fun. And I don't think that we're guessing. I think that people the analytics community makes fun of the film community way too much. Draft capital is the most important metric.
Yes.
And that is largely a film grade, and that's the most reflective in all the models. So for me, I have projected draft capital in my model, which is super helpful. Like there's no point in doing a model without it because that's all that matters for the most part. But I think it's not just for like how they're going to win the NFL. I think that how players win is actually impactful for fantasy. Like I don't want to be drafting too many players that aren't going to be in 2 wide receiver sets because their ceiling is capped. So if they're a slot only projection, I need to know that before so I can kind of sprinkle him in on like that upside case. That's like with Pickens, I think he's boom bust, but if he booms, he has that profile to be like a number 1 receiver. On the flip side, like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's like similar in my model, like if he booms, it's probably as like a gadget player still. So I think like that, like using the film is definitely going to help with the fantasy projections as well.
For sure. So we actually got a quick super chat here from Smooth. Appreciate that $4.99. He says, "Great job, fellas." Appreciate that a ton from Smooth there. Got a couple comments here. Let's do it. Hell yeah, we live. Let's go, boys. You love to see everybody with those notifications on. Let's go. Love the streams. Yeah. But if you guys are on Underdog, I mean, if you're not, use
people.
Yeah.
I was going to say now.
Perfect. I was going to say use promo code FSE if you aren't already. 100% match back up to $100. And I mean, if you are on it, come join, come queue in, and come draft with us. So.
Yeah. And as we've talked about before, too, if you guys use our promo code, you'll get our Dynasty Rankings manifesto for free. So if you guys got a rookie draft coming up, you want to know our top 36 rookies for Superflex for 1 quarterback. Obviously, these will be subject to change after the draft for major reasons like draft capital, like Hayden mentioned. We also have our quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end rankings, bucketed rankings by age, and all that kind of stuff. In our Dynasty Rankings manifesto, like I said, will be free to you if you use our Underdog code. FSC at sign up and first deposit, and you'll also get our other stuff that's on there. And if you guys want to just sign up on Patreon that way, you can get our Underdog, or you can get our Dynasty Rankings manifesto as well. So before this draft fills, Hayden, let's just get a question out of the way here. Do you got a dude in this draft? Is there a guy that's going under the radar? Do you got a guy that maybe is not going under the radar, but you think is the chance to be super special, like we saw from guys like Chase and Waddle and stuff this year as a rookie? Do you have a dude in this class?
I wouldn't say to that extent. I think that Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall are your best bets at running back for sure. I haven't watched the quarterbacks, but word on the streets, they all suck. So I'm saving
I have
them for
watched
last.
them, and I can confirm that they're not the greatest. Yep.
Right.
I
think for this, just in rookies and sophomore, I think it's mostly about the team building aspect and the scarcity of each position. And to me, the quarterbacks I think are undervalued. I think the best case scenario for these rookies and sophomores drafts, because you can start one of them, there's only 4 people in these drafts, is to double tap some of these early ones. I don't want to be dealing with these, like if you scroll down, like dealing with these guys that might not even start that many games. And even if they do start, they might not be very good. So I would rather roll the dice on Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, like those type of guys, Mac Jones. I think Malik Willis would be the exception for this class, just in case he becomes a guy. But I'm okay going quarterback, and then not drafting another one, and then filling out the running backs and wide receivers with depth, because at least those guys will be on the field. Like there's a chance that only 4 or 5 of these guys are even starting this year. And if I can kick one of these teams out of the draft just because they are punting quarterback, I think that's the strategy for me in general.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was going to quickly talk about it too. You mentioned quarterback. You mentioned this class. You mentioned, other than really Malik Willis, there's not too much fantasy upside, if you will, here. There's a big niche Twitter right now about Desmond Ridder, quarterback one. I mean, there's like random, like accounts, like big accounts too. Like keep that in mind, but just random tweets every time I check my timeline. Like, where are you out there? Have you watched Ridder? Like, I haven't seen him yet, but I just see a big disconnect between some people and other people when it comes to him.
It seems like he's getting steamed up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a first round pick later in the first round, but it's also hard because this class, there's not that many teams that are like really needing a quarterback too. Like there's a reason Jimmy G hasn't been traded. There's a reason Baker Mayfield hasn't been traded. Like those guys aren't very good, but in other years, like 3 years ago, those guys would have been already traded for. I feel like a lot of, just because last year's draft class, there was 5 first round quarterbacks, those teams, but you just don't really get that many. Tom Brady doesn't retire. We have some more veteran quarterback movement too. So I feel like there's less open seats. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys fell, but yeah, I've been noticing the Desmond Ridder stuff as well. It's catching my eye. I think that's going to be the guy that I'm most excited to watch outside of Malik Willis when I actually get to these guys in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
For
And speaking of hives of quarterback ones, I believe I'm the leader of the Sam Howell's quarterback one hive on Twitter.
Ooh.
So yeah, I like the rushing upside that I saw from Sam Howell this year. It's pretty hard to rush for 1,000 yards in college, even if you have nobody else around you and you're forced to do it. I mean, only a handful of guys have done it in the last couple of years, and all of those guys have been very fantasy relevant rushing quarterbacks. So I think people, are sleeping on Sam Howell a little bit. But I mean, with these quarterbacks, it really doesn't matter until we know where they get drafted and who they get drafted to. And by the looks of it, I would say for the most part, if teams were high on this quarterback class, we would have seen Marcus Mariota sit out there in free agency. We would have seen Mitch Trubisky sit out there in free agency until after the draft to see if Carolina and Atlanta and Seattle and all these teams would scoop a quarterback in the first round. And if they don't, then they fall back to Marcus Mariota types. But the fact that those guys are all pretty much like off the board, like you said, is probably telling of what the teams think of the quarterback class.
I'll say one thing from a fantasy perspective. Malik Willis is quarterback one for me simply because the dude can run, the dude can throw, and the dude is going to get draft capital. It's pretty simple for me from a value insulation standpoint.
Yeah.
So
it was kind of weird. I think Daniel Jeremiah didn't have him in his latest mock draft.
No.
That's interesting. Like, to me, Lamar Jackson went 31st overall, and Malik Willis is no Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson won the freaking Heisman. So if we're getting like weirdness with biases and all that stuff coming into play here, I wouldn't be surprised if he fell. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Detroit Lions take him second overall. Like, I have no idea where Malik Willis is going. It can be 40th overall. It could be second overall. I'm not going to be surprised either way.
And that's the case with all these quarterbacks. It wouldn't shock me if Matt Corral went 6th to Carolina. It also would shock me if he fell to the 3rd round.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's the wild, wild west.
It literally seems like there's no consensus because I mean, like, I'm not going to make the parallel to 2013, but I still remember in 2013, that's like, I'm 13 years old. I'm starting to get into like watching college football. Right. And I just remember like there's all the hype about Geno Smith. And the only quarterback taken in the 1st round that year was EJ Manuel to the Bills, 16th overall. Like that. And that's the one quarterback draft class in memory where there hasn't really seemed to be at least a consensus group at the top.
If you remove Kyler from the 2019 class, I think that's probably the closest example, because in that class, we saw like supply and demand push those guys up with Haskins and DJ going in the 1st round and then Drew Lock going in the top 40 or wherever he went. So it wouldn't shock me if we saw something like that. Like Carolina gets desperate, takes Kenny Pickett 6th overall. Somebody takes, Corral in the middle of the 1st round and Sam Howell goes to the top of the 2nd.
Yeah. For sure. So we do, we are in the draft. We do see Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams go off the board. We currently have this back-to-back. Where are you thinking here, Hayden? Would you double up on the quarterback, or would you take one and maybe like a Waddle, Breece Hall, or Kyle Pitts type?
I would at least grab one of the quarterbacks for sure. And I don't really have too big of a preference. If you want to go for the ceiling, Trey Lance has the best ceiling. I think Trevor Lawrence has the easiest path to getting us points. I can go either way. It doesn't really matter to me. I'd probably go Lance just because we're in a tournament. But if this was a home league, I can be swung the other way. And then really the next pick, we can go Breece Hall. Any of them really. I think this is like the perfect start to me. I like picking 4th if I can.
For sure. So yeah, we can snag Breece Hall here. Obviously, I mean, if you guys are watching the stream, Breece Hall expected top 40 at minimum type of draft capital. Tested like an elite athlete, elite production. I mean, there's nothing on his profile at this point.
He's starting to get overthought quite a bit right now. From what
it's simple
on the old Bird app, people are starting to talk themselves out of Breece Hall again. And I admittedly, the first time I watched Breece Hall, and maybe this is a good thing that Hayden does this and doesn't do what I do. I watched him immediately after the season, like early January. And I got to admit, I wasn't all that impressed with his tape. But then once I dug back into his production, get the model going and seeing where that kind of stuff lines up, then you add the athletic profile into that, discussion as well. I got to admit, I was a little too low on him at first, but to me, he's going to be the clear 101 in rookie drafts for me. I like Malik Willis, but I think Breece is just the safer prospect. And like I said, we don't know where Malik is going. If Malik goes 2nd overall to the Lions, maybe I have to rethink that stance, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
For sure. I'll get to a couple comments and then we'll obviously get back to our picks, but tried as a Pickens fan here, so shout out there. We're learning rookie stuff. Rookies and sophomores draft we're in currently. Let's see a lot of smoke about. Man, could you imagine, by the way, Burks and AJ Brown in the same wide receiver core for a second?
Just imagine Derrick Henry and AJ Brown and Burks on the same team. You got to have some good tackling players on your team to tackle that team.
Yeah, that team chef. That's a lot of big skill guys to feed over there.
All right, so I'm kind of on
There's one I really want to do
we
right
see
now.
a pretty easy stack right here in front of us. I love Zach Wilson. Everybody knows that. I think this is a pretty easy pick for me.
Perfect.
Same. Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore. I mean, I think I've been the highest person you could imagine Elijah Moore literally for the last year. I mean, he was already my wide receiver.
I watched him first, but sure.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, who had a wide receiver 3? Who had a wide receiver 5? Right? Okay.
I had him 4. But I had Jalen Waddle 5, so I don't know if we want to bring that up.
But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Elijah Moore. I mean, this is a guy that we had super high. I had a first round grade on him. I'm sure you had a 1-2 turn, I believe, right?
I had him a late first as well. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, he had the grade. He looked good on film. He had the prospect profile. Produced in spurts last year. I mean, we saw a legitimate top 10 type of upside from him before he got hurt. And obviously, I mean, projecting onto year 2, we always love to see 21-year-old wide receivers produce at elite levels in their rookie years. I mean, if this guy's going anywhere outside of like the top 20 wide receivers in redraft, even like I'm taking him, and he's currently a top 13 overall wide receiver for me in Dynasty.
Yeah, he's interesting. What are your thoughts, Hayden, on should people be looking to sell Elijah Moore right now because they could draft Drake London at 10 or whatever? And even if that doesn't affect his outlook, his perceived value, his market value probably goes down, and then you could probably acquire him for more. Or if somebody's willing to buy into Elijah Moore, should they wait until after the NFL draft to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's not as much on Elijah Moore as it is on Zach Wilson. Like, I don't want to be in the Jets rebuild again. Like, that would be kind of worrisome for Elijah Moore. But I think that the biggest concern is like the projection was he was an inside receiver only, but then the Jets used him on the outside. So that's super optimistic for me. I'm right in line with the market with Elijah Moore. Less sold on Zach Wilson, but in this tournament, like, there's not that many options to stack here. It's not like we're doing Best Ball Mania 3 where you already have the answers. Right now, we are looking for stacks. So any correlation that we can get is worth it, even if like I'm a little bit lower on Zach Wilson than others.
Yeah, sure. I think so. St. Brown would be the guy that I would have went with as well. I'm kind of on the fence, or not on the fence about St. Brown. I'm the guy that's like, hey, he commanded targets. That's all you can really ask the kid to do. Yeah, people are coming back. I think Kenneth Walker would be my next pick personally.
I would go Kenneth too.
Yeah, just knowing that this is a dude that legitimately has a chance. I think the odds right now are fairly equal that he's the first running back taken in the NFL draft. And if he's, top 50 pick or even a first round pick potentially, and even if he goes to like a shit landing spot like Houston, he'll still have, all the volume in the world and, be a guy that you can rely on for a lot of touches. And I'm a lot lower on Kenneth Walker's receiving output. I'm sure most people know why, because he didn't produce as a receiver, but at bare minimum, I know, Graham Barfield loves him on yards created, and the guy's clearly probably the best running back, pure runner in the class.
Big agree. The other thing I want to know with Kenneth Walker, Daniel Jeremiah went out of his way on his latest podcast to say that Kenneth Walker is like Javonte Williams in that the coaches love him, immediate leader on the team, and was like kept talking about his character. And like, I think that's like the stuff that you can easily miss out on. And that's like, makes me even more optimistic with Kenneth Walker. And then in that same podcast, I mean, we have to take this with a grain of salt, obviously, but Daniel Jeremiah said that Michigan State's coach sent him all the practice clips of Kenneth Walker making a bunch of ridiculous catches. So I didn't see him suck at pass catching, which leads the light on to me. Like, sometimes I see a running back, I'm like, all right, he has no chance. He just didn't do it, which is still bad, but I think I'm leaving the light on that he can do it eventually.
Yeah, for sure. So we're actually back on the clock here. I mean, these are top 3 receivers in ADP. Obviously, there's some guys further down. Where would you guys lean here?
I'd go Bateman just because the great offense that you're getting attached to. Not because I think Bateman's some slam dunk breakout candidate, even though I like Bateman. Jamison Williams is really tough because we don't know if he's going to be on the field his rookie season or how quickly he's going to be on the field his rookie season. So he would be like, if I knew he was 100% healthy, he'd be easily the pick for me here. But what are your thoughts? Do you go JMO here? Do you go with, Sky or Freiermuth or somebody like that?
I would go Jamison because we're going to be drafting so many wide receivers here. Even if he's zeros for the first 5 weeks, we're going to have him for the next couple. And I thought, that dude fucking flies. He is I think he's very good.
In Indianapolis, he would have cracked 4.2s easily.
I think 100%. Very good. I think he's very good.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, it was so natural. Like, again, when I did my study on him, it was so simple to see that he was just operating at a different top speed than any single other person on the field. Like, and again, like contextually playing, like you just kind of know sometimes when a person is just moving differently. And Jameson Williams, I mean, like even against some of the most athletic teams in the nation, I mean, this guy was fucking burning everybody up over top. I mean, plain and simple, he was burning brackets down the field. Like not many receivers in general in the NFL can do that. You need elite speed. You need elite deep tracking ability to be able to do that. And Jameson Williams showed that off all year this year. So
and he's burning Georgia's defense, who was the best in the country for long touchdowns. And when it comes to, I'm curious your thoughts on it. So for me, there's a clear top 3 tier of wide receivers in this class. Whether you have London 1, whether you have Burks 1, whether you have Garrett Wilson 1, I think they're the 3 best receivers in the class in their own tier. Behind them, I'm starting at first. I thought it was going to be a mega tier, right? With Pickens and, Olave and J-Mo and all these dudes. For me, it's kind of solidifying itself as like a mini tier of Olave and J-Mo behind those top 3 guys. We'll make this pick first and then I'll let you answer that. But for me, it's like kind of solidifying as a mini tier. I don't know if your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I have Jameson in that first tier as well. I have some questions with Treylon Burks. I'm not going to go a rant about some of the negatives with him. I think any of these guys were totally
Give me Dotson here. I think he has the highest draft capital.
Yeah. I didn't really like Spiller. I think that Spiller could take a hit post-draft as well. I think that he was probably being drafted pretty early in these drafts. I would probably go elsewhere with him. I thought Sky Moore was pretty solid too. But going back to Jameson, I think that I would be tempted to rank him as my wide receiver 2 if he didn't have that ACL injury. It's so easy just to see what his role is going to be. And in best ball, half PPR, best ball, that's the kind of difference where those guys, I think, get a little bit underrated. Literally worst case, he's like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and best case, he's like Justin Jefferson. So I think we have a pretty good thing to chase here. And I'm tempted to put him inside that top 3, top 4 in that same type of group. It's like, how do you rank freaking Treylon Burks and Jameson Williams? They play completely different roles. That's where it's impossible to do this until we get the landing spot. So I think all of them are kind of in the same bucket, except Chris Olave, I think, is the next tier.
Right.
I don't think he's one of the top 4 guys.
No, yeah. So for me, Jameson Williams, when I watched him, I think he has the best 3-level ability of all these guys. Yes. Because Drake London and Garrett Wilson are good possession receivers, but they're not as advanced as a deep receiver. Obviously, the speed helps with that. As a guy like Jameson Williams, and then Treylon Burks is not your traditional receiver because he has a lot of screen passes and stuff like that he was used on. So in terms of a 3-level threat, my comp for Jameson Williams was actually Hollywood Brown. That's the guy I saw. He's not the same frame as Hollywood Brown. He's a bit taller and a little lanky, but the way that Marquise Brown transformed himself this year from just a deep threat to a 3-level threat. And we saw him even at the end of the season, he was basically like a possession receiver for Tyler Huntley. It was really nice to see. And I think Jameson Williams might take him a year, but I think he could develop that part of his game and become a true, 3-level wide receiver, 150 target guy.
Yeah. I think my baseline is Brandon Cooks, who Marquise Brown, he's taller than that, which I kind of like to see than those 2 names that we comped, but I think that's the kind of range.
You got my guys on here, dude. Okay. I personally think Spiller should come off the board here. I kind of agree with you that he was a little overdrafted at some point in the offseason. I admittedly thought he was a better running back prospect initially than Breece Hall, but once we see the athletics and stuff like that, not to mention, do NFL teams ding this dude to the point that he's, the 78th overall pick in the draft? And I think that's a pretty rosy projection for him because he could even fall to day 3 versus a potential first round running back like Breece Hall. I don't think you can possibly take him over him.
I will say, though, I mean, this guy could be a terrible running back in general, but if I'm getting any type of running back in a big tournament, 16 spots behind ADP, I have to get that texture. So,
and the guy that has, I still believe he's the best receiver of the top 3. I still think he's the best receiving back between him, Breece Hall, and obviously Kenneth Walker, who didn't have a whole lot of receiving production. Yep. I still think he's the best in the passing game. And we've seen, guys with 3-down workloads outperform guys that might be better players. Like David Montgomery, for example, outperforming a guy like Nick Chubb, who we would all agree is a better running back than David Montgomery. But because Nick Chubb doesn't get, a 3-down workload, he can't outproduce a guy like David Montgomery.
For sure.
Spiller was by far the best pass protection back. I will give you that.
Oh, 100%.
The other two guys, it was just
my biggest question about Walker and Hall is how good of pass protectors they are.
Yeah.
I think he's also, going to that point, the most physical of those guys too.
Yeah.
For sure. So we'll get through a couple comments, go through the team, and then we could load up a Superflex Big Board. And yeah, of course, if you guys are watching, queue in with us.
Go ahead and enter the big board now, and then we'll do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can fill it up as quick as possible, for sure. All right. So someone in my league, Jay Full has a question here. Someone in my league traded 104, a 2023 second, and Marquise Brown for CEH, 108, and Mac Jones. Superflex, but the guy getting Mac Jones panicked before Watson got dealt. So, I mean, it's always a bad move to try and fill out your starting lineup before the season is remotely close to starting, which is just a stupid idea, personally, whoever made that trade. But what are your thoughts on this move overall?
Ugh. It's awful. I mean, plain and simple, I would rather Marquise Brown over Mac Jones. I would rather the 104 and the second over CEH and the 108.
108, yeah.
Yeah, it's not close for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the 104 and the 108 is a pretty decent sized drop off in talent in this draft class as well. Mac Jones is a pretty solid quarterback asset to have in Superflex, but
I'm also really high on Marquise Brown. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So you want to roll over this team real quick and see what we got going?
For sure. So our quarterbacks, you guys can see Trey Lance and Zach Wilson rounding out that room. A couple sophomore quarterbacks there. Running backs going straight rookies with the top three quote unquote consensus guys, if you will. I know Hayden would disagree with that. I'll let you talk about your boy in a second too. Wide receivers, and then I mean we just got the full blend here. Elijah Moore, Amon St. Brown, you name it. Guys that performed in their rookie years and guys that are expected super high draft capital, apart from maybe David Bell, but that was our last pick. So I'll let you talk about Rachaad White before this fills up because I know you are super high on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like looking for an RB3, and it's like no one's popping out. Have a little fun with Rachaad White. I think that he can be a 3-down guy. But going back to the Isaiah Spiller, like I want to throw out any of my like projections here because that we got him way after ADP, and it's not even just that. I bet rookies and sophomores ADP 2 weeks ago, he was not being drafted 28th overall. That's probably closer to 20th overall. So we're getting a huge advantage if Isaiah Spiller is any good as a rookie compared to everyone else that's been drafting him. So I think that I want to bring Isaiah Spiller down in my rankings, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be out on the price. If he comes down to where he's like in that zone, I'm definitely willing to fire on him. And I'm not ruling him out. I thought he did everything well. He just didn't have enough burst to do anything with it. Like I thought his vision was okay. I thought his pass protection was great. I thought he can catch the ball out in space. It's just like, give me a little more pop to it, and then I can be sold. But sometimes you don't really need that. You just fall into like a little volume role, and that's totally fine too.
The David Montgomery
miles per hour Twitter seemingly thinks that Isaiah Spiller has cracked 21 miles per hour on runs before. Too. So, I mean, for whatever that's worth, we don't actually have team data because I believe the teams do have that data, the college football teams. But if by calculation these guys can figure out how fast these guys are going, and Spiller does have that gear, it's just not showing up in the testing or whatever. Like Javonte Williams ran slow last year, and he's not as good of a prospect as Javonte Williams, but that's seemingly the only problem that people have with Spiller is potential draft capital and straight line speed.
Yeah,
for sure.
He can be somebody's RB3. I would not bat an eye. I think that entire group, there's like 8 running backs who in my model are between like 75th and like 55th overall and per percentile, and like sure, just pick whoever you think is the most fun. Like,
yeah, I think this year was Trey Sermon the only running back drafted in the 3rd round this past year of the NFL draft. I'm pretty sure he was.
He might have been.
No?
I think we're going to get a lot more 3rd and 4th round running backs in the draft this year than we got last year because I think Sermon, Carter, and Stevenson were like the only 3rd and 4th round guys that we got, and I think James Cook types and Brian Robinsons and Zamir Whites and guys like that.
Tom Haskins, baby. Tone said it. Let's go.
I haven't watched.
I think a lot of those dudes are probably going to find their names called somewhere between like pick 65 and like 115 or something like that in the draft.
Yeah, that's how I have them in my grades too. I gave so many late round 3 grades this year. Just like,
well, yeah, I have
like James
Donovan Knight as like an early 4th round running back type of guy.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of guys like that.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's get through some of these comments because obviously we're just waiting to fill. Where do we leave off here?
We're down here. I got it.
Oh,
Fantasy Football Atomic says, would you guys trade Dalvin Cook for Mahomes and Thielen? What? Who's making this trade? I already have Brady and like Dalvin Cook is a guy that I'm thinking is like one of the easiest sells in Dynasty right now. If you can get an elite quarterback asset, even if this is a 1 quarterback league, I would still do this.
100%. Like that's, I mean, that's a top 3 at minimum Dynasty quarterback.
I 100% wholeheartedly agree with Brock.
I agree.
I also think the Jets are going to take Kenneth Walker.
Early round 3, I mean, they have so much draft capital. They have Carter occupy that third down role. Just let let Kenneth Walker run wild on first and second down.
Also,
I mean,
perfect
simple.
scheme fit too.
Perfect.
Many of the film
wide
heads
zone?
love the wide zone scheme for Kenneth Walker. Like it makes so much sense to me if they and it also having a two guys that can work interchangeably. Most of the time we think of running back by committees. You got like a Thunder and a Lightning, but I think having two guys with a similar frame, similar skill set, if Walker can develop as a receiver, would definitely be beneficial because then you can keep defenses guessing and stuff.
For sure. Also, Hayden, is there any way we can send the link, or would we just have to direct them to the site?
Yeah, I think you can just direct them to the site.
Okay.
I think that's the best way.
Yeah. So our sign up link, if you guys haven't signed up on Underdog, is it linked in the description right now. And if you guys have already signed up, it'll just take you to the site, I believe. So just go to the Superflex Big Board draft, and it'll be whatever the most recent one is. So you just click on it, and you'd be in with us. Sure. So Brock says, I mean, Burkhead had some good weeks last year just off volume. I wouldn't hate Walker to the Texans at all. Yeah. I do think the Texans are like a team that could invest highly in a running back. I don't know if it's going to be one of these high-end dudes.
Oh, yeah.
Could just be like a Brian Robinson type or a Zamir White or something, but they're going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, we see running backs on bad teams pop up just strictly based off of volume. So I would not like whoever gets drafted by the Texans. I don't think that's like the worst case.
I kind of hope my darling Tyler Algier goes to the Texans, get him some volume. And my comp for Tyler Algier is James Robinson, and James Robinson was clearly the running back on a bad team as the workhorse there. And I think Algier's shown over his college career that he can handle a huge workload. Guy's literally a linebacker in a running back's body. So
he is a big dude.
He is huge, dude.
I'm very surprised that more people aren't on him because I really enjoyed his film. I thought it was, he's clearly a quality like second tier, third tier back in this class. I don't know where he's going to get drafted. That's a huge question mark for him. He might get drafted in the 7th round or something like that. But if he sneaks into round 3 sometime, I'm going to be in on him for sure.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I mean, at the end of the day, I actually wanted to address this earlier, but I forgot to bring it up. But I see so many people on Twitter. They're just like, oh, you know what? Like, you should have your rookie drafts before the NFL draft. Test yourself, blah, 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 blah. Like, the NFL and what they think of these players is going to be the most significant determinant of future success that we can possibly use. So why would we not use that variable to our advantage? Why would we have a rookie draft before the NFL draft? Because that's a key piece of information that we need when making these picks on the clock.
Yeah, and don't do your rookie drafts because we already got rookies and sophomores in here. Screw your rookie draft. Do some R's and S's.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, you just wait and see for the rookies and sophomores too. Maybe when the NFL draft is happening, we'll see what happens there. I mean, Hayden's got the inside scoop, but we'll wait and see for that.
I'm just saying we have a lot of Best Ball Mania 3 drafts to do this year. I'm just get prepared.
I'm excited. I'm already going full D-Gen mode.
Bro, you already know we're gonna be getting a good investment into that. You best believe.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like I got a lot better from this year to last year at how to properly structure a team because I feel like myself included, a lot of people go for upside because it's a huge tournament, but guys like Sterling Shepard were probably huge parts of those teams, even though they gave you 3 or 4 weeks of good, spike week production. We had you on, last, June or whatever it was, talking about spike week guys. And I believe you were talking some Hunter Renfrow slander on that.
I was talking some Hunter Renfrow slander.
But guys like Hunter Renfrow were probably huge. I don't know if the guy who actually won the tournament had Hunter Renfrow on his team, but I'd imagine some, highly ranking people did.
Yeah, he was one where I don't want to, like, if you are a for sure starting wide receiver and you're being drafted in the 17th round, like, I want those guys. The mistake with Hunter Renfrow was just the volume that he got. I was not expecting, obviously, Ruggs.
Hard to project that.
Yeah, it was hard, but he it's a good lesson. Even the slot receivers can be better or have value in best ball too, especially when they are priced the way Hunter Renfrow was.
It's crazy that I missed that too, because I was on some slot receivers. Like, I know you were on Cole Beasley too, right? We were all like, Cole Beasley was like, huge value on these drafts, and we weren't on Hunter Renfrow because of this. Anytime you can get a starting receiver for any kind of high-powered offense too, it had me drafting Demarcus Robinson all the time, thinking that he was going to have some spike weeks that didn't really work out. But I was drafting a ton of those guys at the end of drafts, and I think that's something I definitely learned was when you're at the the point in the draft where you got like 6 receivers already on your team, you don't really need to swing for upside anymore. You can go with a couple guys that are going to give you spike weeks rather than if this guy hits, he's the next Justin Jefferson type of picks.
For sure. No, I fully agree there.
I have before we get started, I have some Superflex strategy things if we want to rip through some of those before we get started.
Yeah, of course, brother. Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, so the first thing I looked at was I created this metric that is like fantasy points over replacement, but based on Superflex scoring because it's like so different. And what I learned was 12 of the top 17 players last year were quarterbacks. So obviously everyone's drafting the quarterbacks in the first and second round, but I think we got to do it. I think it's just like you got to suck it up and do it. If you can get at that, like if you're drafting like 11th overall and you can go Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, I think I would do that as well. I think the big difference though was people start drafting like that next tier, like a Ryan Tannehill over like an Austin Eckler.
Yeah,
I'm calling it the Superflex quarterback 2 panic. Do not panic on your quarterback 2. Do not force a quarterback 2. I think we're better off having a bad quarterback 2 and a good quarterback 3 and a good quarterback 4 and win it with volume and like quarterback like in round 7, 8, and 14 and not panic. I think that the Austin Eckler is most likely going to have more points than a Ryan Tannehill type. So that's like kind of like the game you have to play. I want like the elite. If I can get a top 12 quarterback, I want it, but I don't want quarterback 17 ahead of the RB5 for sure.
Well, that goes into like the whole late round quarterback strategy in one quarterback leagues was the rationale was that there isn't a huge difference between quarterback 5 and quarterback, 18 or whatever. But we're seeing, I think last year, 9 quarterbacks had 20 points per game in fantasy. And then the year before it was 10, I think. So we're seeing that there is like an elite, and we're getting very good too ADP wise at predicting who they're going to be because they're usually mobile guys. They're usually, high passing ceiling guys like Brady and Stafford. And last year, I believe every single one of the top quarterbacks in the top 10 was a top 15 drafted quarterback in ADP. So we're getting pretty good at predicting what quarterbacks these are going to be. And like you said, once you start panicking and get outside the, quarterback, 15, 16 range, there's really no reason to take them over potentially elite options at running back, wide receiver, or tight end.
Yep.
I was just going to say, we are picking at 6. This is an interesting thing. I talked to you in the DM, but let's just say hypothetically your top 5 quarterbacks go, your Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar, and Kyler Murray. Are you leaning at taking a guy like Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, that next tier, or are you taking your top ranked running back there?
Could you scroll down? I want to see what quarterback we'd have in round 2. Like, where does Matthew Stafford in them go? 13. So we're not getting
him. Have a chance at like Russ, Brady, Stafford,
Lance, maybe
like that. Hurts like, even would probably be half decent there.
Maybe a Hurts or Lance fall, or maybe like Fields. Like,
I think I'm gonna be a cuck and go quarterback, and then just draft Eckler, one of those guys, one of the top 5 wide receivers. I'm scared. I don't think you can win this tournament if you don't have a quarterback 1. I think it's as simple as that. Like you just mentioned, the late round of Lamar Jackson's just not going to happen ever again.
It hasn't happened for a couple of years now, to be honest, too. Like a couple of years ago, 2019, you could get Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson in the late rounds. Yeah. Like Jalen Hurts was the guy that would have 3 years ago gone in the 14th round. Yeah. He was a top 10 quarterback in ADP last year for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this year we kind of know it. If Malik Willis lands into a spot where he's expected to start right away, he's most likely going to be a top 12-ish type of quarterback. Like, we just kind of know as a community right now.
Someone take JT. Someone take JT.
Please. Raw, you want to take JT.
Oh, I know there's some casuals in this draft. Come on.
Come on, sports. Come on, Jim. Screwed, come on, Jim.
Which quarterback do we like if we don't go this route? And we can roll the dice and go a Christian McCaffrey team or JT if we wanted to.
Sure call, brother.
Oh, there we go. We got Kyler Murray. I was gonna say I would personally probably go with Russ because the stacking options are cheaper than Burrow.
Yeah,
and we're probably we were forced to go after Higgins and Chase at that point. Yeah. But with Russ, I think even if you missed out on one of Sutton or Judy, you could grab the other one and then stack them late with Hamler and Patrick and still be pretty decent from that perspective.
And that's why I like a guy like Jalen Hurts and I like a guy like Trey Lance. Like, we know that they're going to have the insulation from the rushing, and they're super easy to stack because their receiving weapons are going cheap. I mean, like Devontae Smith is like a 6th, 7th round pick. Brandon Ayuk's like a 9th round pick. Like, you're getting these guys at insane values for what's going to be, top producing type of fantasy quarterback. So that's why, like, if I'm picking at the back end turn, like, most of my teams, I have so much heavy exposure on like a Hurts Lance stack or a Hurts Fields if I go round 3, or just guys that I know if I'm not getting one of the elite top options that are like, household type of, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson types, just give me a guy that can run the ball.
Yeah. Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage to be picking at the end of the first round in these drafts?
I think it's an advantage. If I can get...
If the board looks like this, though, where they're just ripping quarterbacks off the board.
Yeah, but still, like, I think going one of the rushing... I think the highest upside is if you can get one of these quarterbacks. If you can get Matthew Stafford plus Jalen Hurts, I think like that's probably the best start. Or give me Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen's going to smash everybody again this year. So, but I like Kyler Murray. The reason why I like Kyler Murray is Zach Ertz goes late. Rondale Moore goes late. And the other thing I want to talk about is not in like mainstream fantasy football talks, but in like kind of like this more degen talk where we're talking about
Antoine Wesley. You're going to bring up Antoine
Wesley. No. I'm going to go the opposite. No fantasy analyst wants to talk up Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins, any of the old guys. Not a single fantasy analyst wants to put their name on them. I think they're getting undervalued, and everybody wants to keep talking about the second round or second year receivers. And I think that we are getting a little bit over our skis with some of these guys. And someone like DeAndre Hopkins, I think is going a couple picks too late just because of the age. Because I don't think any like mainstream fantasy analyst wants to actually like put their name on that.
Who do you want?
Lance.
Yeah, I would go
please.
Yeah, see what Watson's really. I just don't think you should draft him. There's no chance he doesn't get at least 8 games. Like, in my opinion.
Well, I was telling you off stream. I mean, like Jacoby Brissett's going like round 16, 17. If I can pretty much, in my opinion, guarantee.
Wow, we're looking good now, boys.
At least 5-6 games from a quarterback in round 15, 16, 17, you name it. Like Jacoby Brissett, like if people knew he was going to start that, if it was like certain like Deshaun Watson got a suspension tomorrow, he would probably be closer to like the 10th round area.
Yeah. Right? Can you show the board, Danny? I just want to see how it looks with all the guys going off the board here. Yeah. So, good amount of quarterbacks. We see, top 4 running backs or so. It's interesting to me that Derrick Henry is going that high. I don't think I'm not going to argue with it. I just thought people would be a little bit more recency bias with him by the fact that he got injured and he's an older running back and stuff. Wide receivers, they don't shock me. Kelsey also, I think that is just way too high for
egregious.
I know he's a tight end advantage and stuff, but like, was anybody happy they drafted Kelsey at the end of the first round this year for the first 15 weeks of the year until like the fantasy playoffs that you probably didn't make because you drafted Kelsey?
Well, I know Hayden definitely agrees with that based on the article. I'll let you talk about tight end value in these drafts.
Yeah, well, I think even in this tournament, if you're drafting unstacked Travis Kelsey, when there's most teams, just the way the ADP falls, most teams have Travis Kelsey paired with Patrick Mahomes. So how are you going to win the tournament if half the teams in the finals have it with Mahomes? Even if Travis Kelsey goes off, that means Patrick Mahomes goes off and you're shit out of luck. So I wouldn't be drafting Travis Kelsey unless I already have Patrick Mahomes. That's like basically a rule I'd want to make sure to have.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. When you have those clear stacks like that, it's just hard not to, like, cause I'm sure people last year too, going back to the playoff best ball, like having a Mahomes or one of the like Hill and Kelsey stacks. If the Chiefs made the Super Bowl and you only had one of those dudes, there was teams that secured the triple stack.
I like Najee here.
I was just about to ask you, would you want to go Najee?
Yeah. Najee sounds like a good one. Who was that wide receiver? Was Jefferson on the board?
No. He goes.
Okay. I was gonna say. I thought I saw his name for like a brief second. I was like, wait.
He went over Cooper Kupp in this draft.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, all right. So we got a bunch of guys. Is this the quarterback area where we're starting to see a bit of a drop off with Fields and Derek Carr or something, or is there still a couple guys if you go to the quarterback position that we would still want to potentially take as a quarterback too here if we didn't already take Lance?
I'll just say one thing. If Najee had gone at this Fields pick, I would have felt that Fields is like that last upside type of quarterback. Like if we're looking here, you can make the argument for Trevor. Trevor, Ryan Tannehill realistically, and then Zach Wilson. Like after that, it's just kind of you get into your Daniel Jones, your Mac Jones, your Matt Ryans. So like I'm not.
This is the quarterback 2 panic. These names that you just listed, that's the quarterback 2 panic. I think Justin Fields over Najee Harris is egregious. I think that's an awful pick. Justin Fields, like he has a 5% chance of absolutely smashing, but he is set up to fail miserably, and he's coming from a pretty bad spot. And Najee Harris, worst case, is going to be the running back 12 this year, like unless he gets injured. But we can play that game with everybody. I think,
I don't even
the
think
exact
running back 12
quarterback
is
too.
generous. Like there's no chance this guy isn't like the running back 8
or be
at the low
6,
end.
7. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, let's just talk about this team real quick. I mean, what we've been able to make
This seems sick.
3 round, like, dude, like I would, like, if you had just told me like, oh yeah, you could start your draft with, the 2 mobile quarterbacks from the NFC West, I would have been happy. But the fact that you're able to pair that with Najee Harris too, like, I mean,
Yeah, we're ripping.
Yeah, who do we got at wide receiver that's on the board? Just out of curiosity, it's like
You got to
Tyreek's
go DeAndre eventually.
Is he egregious? You think he should be off the board right now, or is he, because now he's in Arizona, he's not in Kansas City anymore? Does he belong back towards the back end of the wide receiver 1 conversation? Is he still Tyreek Hill? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think he's like, I think I have him like wide receiver 7 or 8. I moved AJ Brown ahead of him. I think I moved CeeDee Lamb ahead of him, but that's the type of range. Like, I think this is kind of the spot where I would still take him. I don't really want that much Tua. I guess like you got to have some shares of it, but and I don't want Jalen Waddle where he's being priced out. A lot of his stuff was like not manufactured, but there's no need to manufacture as many touches. And this offense just in general is going to be running slower pace, pass the ball less in general. So I'm a little bit concerned about Jalen Waddle, like not as a player, but like just strictly for fantasy purposes.
He actually went over Tyreek Hill in this draft. What are your thoughts on
if
that?
If Tyreek is here,
no
I'm
way.
literally phoning the pick in instantly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we have to.
My firstborn son went off the board.
Oh my God, boys, we're gonna win a
50,000. This is nuts.
Yeah, so the fact that Dobbins went at 39, I love Dobbins. Like, you guys know I love Dobbins. I literally dropped a video the other day that he's my number 1 buy in Dynasty League. I'm kind of shocked he's going this high. I thought people would be a little bit more hesitant on him because, I mean, Jesse Morris tweeted out, Jamal Charles is the last running back to come off of a torn ACL in the first season and post a top 12 season, which, I mean, J.K. Dobbins is a lot in his favor. He tore it, got the surgery done September 7th. He's got a full year before the season actually starts, 11 months pretty much for training camp. He's 23 years old. There's a lot of factors in his favor. What are your thoughts on Dobbins? Because I know, like, from a long-term dynasty perspective, I absolutely love Dobbins, but I do have a little bit of concern, early in the season this year.
Yeah, so my biggest thing with Dobbins is I don't think the Ravens actually use their running backs very often. I think that's like one of the biggest misconceptions is the way that they use them is the unvaluable touches. And it's between the 20s. He's not going to catch that many passes. They always use a little bit of a rotation. Lamar Jackson's going to get his own in the red zone. So I always think that we think that just because the Ravens rank like 1st or 2nd or 3rd in rush attempts, that like a lot of that's going to the running backs. It's not necessarily the case. And some of like the zone read stuff, some of those touches are high value touches at purely running the ball, but that doesn't mean they're getting that many receptions. So I'm pretty much out on Dobbins, but he's one of those players where he's so talented that it could come back to bite me. But I'd rather would take a swing on somebody like James Conner, for example, where I'm like, okay, if this works, like this could really work just because the offense kind of set up for it.
Yeah, I think Fournette at 49 is a pretty good value.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all like the most, when you look last year, if you looked at my Underdog ownership, it was just like, you would have thought I was the best analyst in the world. Like the amount of DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette, James Conner, like all the dudes that I
round 4 Swift
on my teams were phenomenal. And then you go to some of my wide receivers and they weren't nearly as good, especially the late round guys, because I tended to take a lot of the late round guys a lot. But the fact that I had so much Leonard Fournette last year, same with Connor as well.
I'm going to say this is this might be one of the best Superflex starts in the entire history of Underdog Fantasy. This team is wild. Jesus. If we can get a little bit of a trade, if we can just get Ayuk, call it a day.
Can we dude, if Pitts falls to us, I'll lose my mind.
Dude. This is wild.
Dude, I mean, fucking, like, even I'm not gonna like.
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't have to say the name, but
yes. Yeah, you guys can see that. I'm just gonna, Men in Black you guys. So.
Yeah, for sure. Can you show the board again? I just want to see what like, dude, Daniel Jones in the 5th round. Like, no, thank you. Dude, like, is Daniel Jones gonna start the whole year? Like, are they gonna bench him before he?
I love Zach Wilson in general, but like, I was looking at that. I'm like, you got Deshaun Watson here, who's probably gonna miss games due to suspension, and then you got Zach Wilson at the 411.
I would rather just go with the double condom play and take Jacoby Brissett in like the 15th round than take Zach Wilson.
Yes. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Is like one of the things I wrote about in my strategy column The best values of any position, anything in Superflex is quarterback fours. Nobody drafts them. The backup players actually get starts. Like I'm going to throw out Davis Mills. We had Tyler Huntley. We had a bunch of guys that come up and start. If you get 4 weeks from a Jacoby Brissett, you are at a huge advantage. It is much easier to find a path to the quarterback four in your team getting into your Superflex lineup compared to like the wide receiver 10, because we lost a wide receiver spot by now there's only 2 wide receiver spots plus a flex. And I think that people haven't adjusted enough for the wide receivers. You don't need as much depth because there's less spots to kind of fill. And I think that the Jacoby Brissett types take a gamble on a rookie as your quarterback for. I like those picks way more than a KJ Hamler type of pick where like you're hoping you get a couple weeks, but even if they do get a couple weeks, you're only getting so much over replacement because you have 9 other wide receivers to kind of fight for those spots. In Superflex, it's a lot different. Did we just get sniped?
We got sniped on Kittle, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that we would have ended the stream.
Dude.
literally.
Dude. I was praying. I'm like, wait. Kittle's on the board. We
honestly, I'm not saying the name. But if he just falls here, I'm also going to be pretty happy.
I think I already went over. Hopefully.
Is there any other tight ends on the board right now that are elite?
No.
Okay, no.
We got to go James Conner here. I mean, we have.
We have the correlation. Like, we need it.
Or
get
we risk it and take Breece Hall and hope Conner falls?
I just say we scoop here. I think James Conner.
All right, let's do it.
Have you guys done rankings for this upcoming season? And why is James Conner not in the top 15?
Like I don't get
I feel like the very, very lazy narrative that I've seen on Twitter is that he's going to regress in the touchdown department, which I just honestly hate the word regression. I think it's just like so overused. People don't even know what it means most of the time when they're saying it. I mean, could he not have 15 rushing touchdowns or whatever he had this year again? Sure, but Chase Edmonds isn't there anymore. Like, are they going to draft Kyron Williams in the 5th round to replace him? Probably. Like, they're probably going to draft somebody like that, and they're going to contribute to some degree. But James Conner was like legitimately like an 80% opportunity share running back last year when Edmonds was not on the field. And this offense should still be good. It's still Kyler Murray-led offense. DeAndre Hopkins missed half the year last year. Maybe Rondale Moore can take a step forward. They add another receiver or something like that. I don't see why he's still not the goal line back for a top 10 offense. And if he's going to regress in the touchdown department, goes from 15 to 12, like congrats, he regressed, but he was still great for fantasy.
And Brock brings up a good point. I mean, without Chase Edmonds in the fold, any like sort of regression you just see from a touchdown standpoint, I mean, could easily be supplemented in the receiving game. So, I mean, if we're taking the Chase Edmonds targets out there, I mean, I'm not going to say, vacate targets, but we literally saw a sample size last year when Chase Edmonds missed time where James Conner was actually getting a receiving workload. So the fact that you're able to scoop that up in the 6th round right now is pretty insane. I mean, him and Fournette are easily the best value in these drafts, and I feel like they get kind of pushed under because their ADPs were so low when they were unsigned.
Yeah, it takes, like, I noticed this from last year. It takes about 2 weeks for the ADPs to actually come and settle in when we have breaking news like Darrell Henderson. It takes some time. Obviously, there's a little game theory aspect where you don't want to be taking players who other people you're competing against drafted them late. But at this point, like I don't think the difference is that big. Let's win this draft. Let's see who we're going to go here.
Deontay Johnson is the top value right now.
Well, I was going to say the top 2 are the ones that are screaming at me, ETN or Deontay Johnson. Who are you guys leaning here?
I would go Deontay based off of just roster construction.
Yeah, I don't also think there's a reason for us to take unnecessary risks like ETN right now. Like, not, as much as I love ETN, I think he's more risky than Deontay Johnson presents. So we might as well take the locked and loaded top 10 PPR receiver last year.
Yeah, one thing I wrote is in Superflex scoring, just the way it's set up, keep in mind, I think it's like a 2 to 3 ratio between your running backs and wide receivers. Keep that 2 to 3 ratio throughout your draft. I think like ultimately having about 5 running backs, 8 receivers, kind of in that 2 to 3 ratio the entire draft is the best way to do it. Most of the time, your wide receiver is going to be in that flex spot, like that standard flex spot. So it's kind of that 2 to 3 ratio that we want to be aiming for. I think just in general, people on Underdog love wide receivers so much that they draft too many of them. We're getting some data from 4 for 4, And I think that people draft 4 good receivers and they still come out with 9 receivers in the draft. No, you drafted 4 good ones, stick with your guns. That's when you only draft 7 or 8 of them, not 9 or 10.
Grab some Gus Edwards touchdown boom weeks, grab some
Yes.
handcuff production and Tony Pollard, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll look at right after we went Deontay. Let's just talk about it. By the way, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 18 right now, is just ludicrous to me. I mean, again, I am the most loud Elijah Moore stan there is, but how is he only 2 spots behind Deontay Johnson?
Should we go Trubisky here? I think.
Yeah, I was literally just about to bring it up, and also too, I think most of the people that have Steelers stacks might try and get a little too cute and pair him with like Malik Willis or something like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just taking Trubisky, which is a very realistic chance that he starts the whole season. I mean,
I was just going to say, I mean, you remember Hayden Winks' Jimmy G Niner stack last year, baby. Let's go.
Oh, did he take a naked Trubisky?
That's fine. We can adjust.
Naked Trubisky. Oh, look at that quarterback core, baby.
See, that is called panicking. That's a little too much. I think your quarterback 4 should be one of the scrub types. I think you should have a quarterback 4, but make sure he's like in Trubisky's above scrubs. I'm talking like beneath Trubisky, like Tyrod Taylor or something in like the last round.
Dude, like, again, and the rookie quarterbacks go so late too. Like if they started all in the rookie years, like, hey, you're chilling. So we're back on the board here. I mean,
Juju. Are you guys in or out on Juju?
Not over Marquise Brown.
No.
You guys don't like Juju?
Oh,
Okay,
not to the extent that I think he's being propelled. I've always just believed that Juju is not nearly as good as he's been talked up, but obviously he's currently alone in that receiving core right now outside of Kelsey. So it's definitely intriguing from a redraft perspective, but I think Marquise Brown is just a screaming value here.
Yeah, I just can't stomach the thought of Juju. I don't know. Maybe that's just my own bias.
Watch your words, boys. He's got Patrick Mahomes as quarterback, and they're looking for receivers. And Travis Kelce's 33. Like, I can see the path to it. I'm not saying
I can't wait till Jahan Dotson outproduces the daylight out of the first round.
Maybe so. Another thing in my strategy column I talk about is just going back to the wide receivers, and everybody keeps wanting to draft wide receivers. What happens is the top 30 wide receivers get drafted appropriately, and those like where you're getting the best value. After wide receiver about 30 overall, each wide receiver gets drafted about 5 to 10, 15 spots too early compared to where they finished last year. And I think if you are playing this appropriately, how we kind of have it structured here, draft 4 good ones and don't keep hammering the wide receiver spot later on when the values become the worst. This is like we're taking the perfect kind of path where you're getting 2 good running backs and then getting the value at wide or running back depth while everyone else kind of like overdrafts the wide receivers later.
For sure. I mean, let's just talk about it right now. Like Gabe Davis, I was just, I was literally just about to point out how in the world does Gabe Davis have a higher ADP? I was gonna say, how does Gabe Davis have a higher ADP than Kenneth Walker?
Do we have a tight end that's worth a damn here? I just want to see.
Gronk maybe, but we
don't even know if he's gonna play for sure. But
Ertz, we should go Ertz.
Yeah, we just get him out of the way before somebody panics and takes a tight end. That's probably smart.
Yeah. More than fine with that. I mean, we got more than enough value so far.
Yeah, I totally agree with you though. When I noticed when I was doing, because me and Danny, we just grinded a stupid amount of best ball drafts last summer. And you'd be in the 6th, 7th round, and we're getting some questionable receivers coming off the board, like some 10th round caliber wide receivers. And we're just scooping up Leonard Fournettes and James Connors in that area of the draft. Damian Harris, I was a big Damian Harris guy last year too. It just made so much more sense that the difference between those guys isn't very, large between those running backs and those wide receivers, yet the receivers are getting, vaulted up because everybody heard, running back dead zone all summer. And they think that you're not allowed to draft a running back after round 2 after that.
The best values are the players that no fantasy analyst is talking about. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, it's literally like kind of fade, like some of the stuff, like it's going to be one of my bits the entire offseason. Not a single person is going to tout Adam Thielen. I'm going to do it the entire summer, and he's going to be drafted wide receiver 39. He was wide receiver 11 half PPR per game last year. Obviously, he got injured, but that was with Justin Jefferson. What happens if Adam Thielen's by himself and Justin Jefferson's not out there? Like, we're talking about a league-winning pick, and I think that if he's healthy, he's going to be ranked inside the top 30 when we're doing DFS stuff. We're going to be doing double stacks with Kirk Cousins. This team's going to pass the ball way more. So just find the player that no one's going to be touting. I think like your older wide receivers, and also the plotting 3-down backs with upside. Fournette and James Conner were kind of the perfect scenarios last year.
I still don't think we're gonna get guys that good of
Like-
outlooks though. Like that was just so egregious last year. I still can't believe as many people, like as much as
Looking back
people
on
love
it.
running backs, that James Conner and Leonard Fournette didn't end up as like 5th round dead zone running backs.
Yeah.
Like I still can't believe that didn't happen.
It was I think it was predictably perfect picks. Like I didn't even think it was like, it was just so obvious.
Which is why I had 30% Leonard Fournette last year.
Good.
So boys, we're about to be back on the clock here. Where would you lean? A wide receiver?
Do you want to get an
running back?
upside wide receiver like Burks, or do you want to go with
real quick? Who are the quarterbacks? Just because I think we should have a good QB3 still. I think.
Would you go like Jimmy G type here, or would you?
I would rather wait a while and just grab like a rookie.
Get 2 of. We need 2 of them though for sure.
So then we'll get like a Howell and then pair him with like a Brissett maybe later.
Yeah.
There's nobody that like. Do we want to like force a Drew Lock pick here? So like I don't know.
No, not yet.
Ayuk.
Ayuk, we got to stack.
Ayuk.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're stack him up with Lance.
Yep. We're big chilling. Got him right about ADP. We're chilling. We have.
What about tight ends in these drafts? Where are you going roster construction wise with tight ends? We got not an elite guy, I would say at least. Zach Ertz has definitely proved that he was good still, but are we going 2 to 3 tight ends here because we have a guy that's not Kittle or whatever, or do we want to go with like a 2 tight end type of?
No, I think 3 or 4. I think that's one of the edges possibly, and I have to do some more research. But the initial research, 4 tight ends, and you punted all 4 of them. What happens is the tight end, because they're not catching as many passes, they're not getting as many yards. They're so touchdown reliant, and touchdowns are very random week to week. So I think that of all the positions, if you have 4 guys that are just catching a touchdown every 5 games, and you're kind of ping ponging those scores, you kind of make up for it. And what the big thing is with the late round tight end, it's about how they're doing relative to the top guys. 3 years ago, when we had George Kittle prime, Travis Kelce prime, and it's like a Darren Waller season, like all of a sudden, like the late round tight ends look like crap. But we are probably not going to get the elite season from George Kittle just because of the way the team's set up. Darren Waller, more target competition. Kyle Pitts is going to have a harder path. Mark Andrews, we have the running backs back. Travis Kelce's all of a sudden 33. Like if there is no elite tight end, even if the late round tight ends don't change their own scoring, they're by default being better picks. So I think this is like the perfect year to go punt, and go, find a bunch of the Evan Ingrams, Zach Ertz types instead.
My best team last year, the furthest advanced team in Best Ball Mania 2 or whatever it was called, was a team that was constructed of Evan Ingram, Pat Freiermuth, and Hunter Henry as my tight end core.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I think that's going to be the path I do. I like Dalton Schultz and I like Dawson Knox at ADP, but outside of like the rest of the top 10 guys, I think they get drafted too early. I'd rather just go Evan Ingram, Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, and then freaking pick whoever, Brevin Jordan, and call it a day.
Yeah,
for sure. So we're back on the clock here, boys. Where would you lean? Would you take a wide receiver here? We already have 5, or would you like take like a spill of Rashad White, or just kind of wait
Madison? Like, should we just send this thing? If Dalvin Cook gets hurt, we just freaking start really rocking these teams. Do you think he goes too early?
I think that's a bit early.
A little bit too early.
Madison. I think like as much as I think Renfro might be getting overdrafted a bit, like I don't know, he's a little.
Sorry, I just
that was a good pick.
It's my wide receiver one. I ain't gonna complain.
I was just looking. Yeah.
I often like my wide receivers to get 40% of their routes where they're being targeted.
For real.
Good. And when they're 6'4", 219. Like
speaking of, because I watched George Pickens today, so the stat is fresh in my head. 18.9% targets per route run in 2020, the last time he was out on the field. And it was, I believe, 37% for Drake London this year. So pretty much double the amount of targets per route for similar, sized wide receivers.
Yep.
Oh, question I have here. Would you go with a Freiermuth type, or would you wait at tight end now and just go with, like one of these running backs or Madison or you name it?
What's like the overall ADP? Like just kind of see where we're sitting here.
Mostly just wide receivers. And then
I think we're good at like our wide receiver. Could you just go back to him? I think they're kind of low-key stacked, right? Like we feel pretty good about that.
We're set, yeah.
So I feel like we can draft one wide receiver 7 later on and just bank on these guys and go. We have to win with depth at running back, and I think for sure we need to find a quarterback. Like early. Like, and these are the ones that sound awful. But if we can wait till we get to where they're back into the ADP range, we're getting decent values. Like we have to go quarterback.
Teddy Bridgewater's interesting late as our quarterback 4 because like Tua's like, I don't think Tua's a bad quarterback. I think Tua's like better than people think to some extent, but are they going to bench Tua at some point and just play Teddy Bridgewater?
Teddy thinks so.
He fits the system better. Like, I could see it happening. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I could see it happening.
Teddy picked Miami early on. It wasn't just like that quote though.
And he didn't. Yeah, he didn't answer if they were like, "Are you like competing for the starting job or whatever?"
He chose Miami, and you don't choose a team that early on in the process. Like Baker Mayfield hasn't found a team yet. Like he chose Miami for some reason, so it's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, it definitely is really interesting when you consider it, because I mean, we know that Tua is very volatile from a play standpoint, and I mean, if he has a bad outing, like Teddy Bridgewater has all the capabilities, has all the weapons to have fantasy relevance. And if we're getting him like round 15, round 16, fucking later, you name it, like we definitely have a chance there. So I mean,
before you're back on the clock real quick, I just want to have Hayden answer this question. Do you know when the next non-Superflex underdog tourney is coming?
Yeah, so I think this one's going to fill a little bit before the NFL draft. I'm not sure how much time we're going to have to start another tournament. That's going to be kind of depends on.
If we grab Rondell here.
Yeah,
we got the Cardinals stack. Grab Rondell.
Yeah, but
and we're done at receiver. If we grab Rondell, we're done. And I think that's fine. We can win with depth other way. But that's
just because it fit the stack. I think that made sense.
Yeah, for sure.
We should literally not draft another wide receiver. I think we're
that's
seven good ones. We're good.
Yeah, and I mean, is this a 6 running back build, a 5 running back build? Like, what are you thinking here?
At least 5. We might go 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
It depends on how many tight ends we grab too.
Those are 2 guys I liked.
Yeah, there's the tight end run. Unfortunately, we didn't start that one. Now it's getting a little gross.
I think all these guys are fine though. Like,
yeah,
they're all disgusting.
They're all gross. Logan Thomas was a top 7 tight end this year. I probably wouldn't be shocked.
Like, you can make an argument for me that Hayden Hurst was a top 12 tight end this year, to be honest. Like,
I don't know, man. I think I'm done with Hayden Hurst.
Seriously, Cole Kmet, give me the odds. Cole Kmet outscored Gerald Everett this year. It's close to 50-50. And like the ADPs are about the same range. I think just keep ping ponging. Like this is the tier of tight ends that gets me fired up. Like I want to just keep firing at these guys. They all seem like they have a chance. They have a chance.
Yeah, dude. Like freaking. I mean, hell, Logan Thomas before he got injured was one of the most highest volume tight ends in the NFL.
Dude, Noah Fant, tight end 20 off the board. Who went like tight end 10? Like if you told me he outscored the tight end 10 this year, I wouldn't be shocked. And it's probably close to a 50-50 chance he does.
Saying that we're not going to construct the Drew Lock to Noah Fant stack. Okay. Someone probably took Drew Lock, to be honest.
Do we roll with a rookie here?
We need quarterbacks bad. We need quarterbacks very bad.
I think we should go with a rookie personally.
A rookie and Brissett, maybe?
I think Corral is probably the more likely of him, Howell, and Ritter to go in the first round, personally. Because Corral was off the radar for a while because he wasn't at the Senior Bowl or the Combine doing a lot of stuff. Then he had his pro day, and I think teams are going to start to, like, maybe not teams, they probably knew the whole time, but media is going to start to drive the narrative that Corral's a first-round quarterback soon. I don't know. Corral would be the guy that I would go with just because I think of the 3 rookies, he has the earliest path to start because I think he's going to go the highest.
The only one I would argue is Ritter, simply because he has Konami code upside, if you will.
I just don't think an NFL team's going to take that guy in the first round. I just don't see it.
I have no takes. It's up to you guys.
I haven't watched Ritter yet. I've watched the other 4, but I haven't watched Ritter yet. So
we're getting Teddy in a couple rounds. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can pick whoever here.
Yeah.
Rashad White's interesting to me. We need running backs.
Yeah, we can take Rashad White.
Yeah, we just got a smash quarterback next round. Okay.
He's interesting. So on Rashad White, I'm assuming you like him because he has 3-down capability. That's pretty popular. I've seen David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell's names thrown.
Those are egregious.
Yeah, they're pretty egregious. The only one that I mean, as a prospect, the David Johnson one isn't totally egregious because he was an older prospect, went to a small school, and I think he also went to like JUCO, which I believe Rashad White went to as well. For a little bit of time. Does the age concern you? The fact that he's like a 23-year-old running back competing against, younger 18, 19, 20-year-olds?
Yes. I think there's a little bit of context. He grew up in Kansas, and Josh Norris was telling me that Rashad White's high school was using like freaking shotgun wing T with 3 running backs in the backfield. So that's probably why he didn't get scouted to D1. It's running this random ass offense in the middle of Kansas. And then he balled out Arizona State, like 135 yards per game. Over the last 2 seasons. Like that is like really big production. The age matters. That's why he's a 73rd percentile prospect in my model. I'm mentally prepared to get completely rugged on him and him going in the 5th round. Like I'm already mentally prepared, but on the off chance that he is a 3rd round pick, I think I'm going to be pretty excited for him. I just see he can catch passes fluidly. He isn't a powerful runner, but I thought he was an efficient mover. Just he has good footwork. So I can see it. Like some of the other guys, I just don't really see a full 3-down upside. I think that Rachaad White at least has a chance, and that's all you can ask for here.
Right. There's a couple guys that I am interested in at the running back position because I think the NFL will draft them highly. The 3 names are Brian Robinson, James Cook, and Zamir White, because I think the NFL is higher on these guys because, I mean, with Cook and White, they went to Georgia. They won the national championship, all that kind of stuff. I still think we just passed his name. Tyler Algier is a better prospect than all 3 of them, in my opinion, but I don't know where the hell he's going to get drafted. And I have a very, very high suspicion that the guys that I just mentioned are probably 3rd-round draft picks.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see all those guys are like the same bucket to me. Like,
yeah, there's a big group of like 3rd and 4th round caliber prospects in this class.
Yeah.
So we're at pick 163 here, by the way.
Where does Ritter go? 177. Yeah, we'll probably take a chance later.
Yeah, just take a chance on Ritter. I think that's probably fine. Hopefully he goes to like Indianapolis and Matt Ryan, as you know, is an aging quarterback, suffers some injuries or something like that, and we get him on the field.
Push praying for injuries. Okay. I'm joking.
We're getting Teddy. We're getting Teddy later. That is a fact. Or Jacoby. Those are perfect.
I'm done with either of them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect balance because you got.
I think these rookie running backs are interesting.
Yes.
I don't know which. Like, I think Brian Robinson probably has the best path to a 3-down workload. Because if I had to put a bet right now, which of these running backs gets drafted first, I'd probably pick Brian Robinson. He's also a guy like Rachaad White that is a bit older of a prospect, competing at Alabama versus 18 to 20 year-olds. He didn't really, when I was watching Najee Harris last year and Brian Robinson got on the field,
he just kept making fun of him.
This guy stinks. Yeah. But he did look a lot better this year. So I'll give him that. And he tested pretty well for his size as well. So what are your thoughts on Brian Robinson? Have you dug into him too much?
Yeah, I have. I'm going to rewatch him today as well. I thought he was fine. He was worse in pass protection than I thought, but he was a better receiver than I thought. So I think there's a chance for him. I think he's going to be a plotter. He's just going to be a backup. But if he a backup with an injury, I can see. I thought Zamir White, he has a lower floor than Brian Robinson, but I think Zamir White's got like some serious pop. Like some actually game-breaking pop.
Projection for him is tough too because of the injury. Maybe he falls to day 3 because of that. Like the sole reason he falls to day 3 in the draft is because he's had 2 ACL tears or whatever his injury history is. And I could see a team just being wary of that and skipping over him a little bit for that reason. But he definitely tested the best. He's the best athlete of those guys for sure.
There's also the chance if a team like drafts him 69th overall or something, he would be the consensus RB3 in the class as well too. So I think it's kind of like playing both.
The ADP game too.
There's not an RB3 that I actually feel comfortable with in this class. Like somebody's going to get settled in. I think it could be Zamir White. Man, these guys, it's so tough.
I'm cool going Zamir White here, to be honest. I don't think there's anything that's like a screaming value in ADP.
I was just about to ask, would you go?
Gus Edwards is interesting too, though, because like you said, they are going to mix in a bunch of guys on the goal line, whether it's Dobbins or Lamar.
Zamir.
Fuck.
We're going to get auto Jacoby Brissett, Danny. Order your damn.
That's fine. That's fine.
Corey, you start talking when there's 5 seconds left on the clock and expect me to make the
order your damn queue then.
I put a bunch
That's
of guys
fine.
in.
We'll live.
We already got a god squad anyway. We're good.
Why is it so big?
Yeah.
Gus Edwards just wanted to show himself out.
Yeah.
Gosh, Gus.
Oh my god!
All right, I guess we have to unstar Teddy.
Oh, pain.
Yeah, unstar Teddy instantly right now.
Taysom Hill's going now.
We got a good 5-10 minutes to talk ourselves into these tight ends because we're gonna draft a bunch of them. We're like, who? One of these guys that's queued right now is gonna be
Irv
the tight
Smith
end
is the name that stands out to me because we can get another like late round tight end after that. Irv Smith has the ceiling to become an actual difference maker at tight end. He's going to be in an offense like you kind of already talked about that should throw the ball more next year.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think KJ Osborne's going to contribute as much as he did if Irv Smith is on the field. Personally, I think if Thielen and Jefferson are the dudes in that offense, I think Irv Smith is the next best pass catcher there.
Yeah, he just went off the board.
You touted him too hard.
I touted him way too much. Somebody in the chat just took him 100%.
Yeah. I can't believe we started talking about who to take with 5 seconds left and I get auto Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett is the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. That was a great value, Danny.
Serious though, under. I would say
Cleveland,
the
sorry,
true
Cleveland.
odds for Deshaun Watson a suspension, I would say over under 8 games. I think that's the
Over.
line.
Oh,
I think I would go
he's going to
over.
get 8 for sure.
I think
Over.
I think if he
8
gets
to
suspended,
the
period,
year.
it's going to be a minimum of 8 games.
Yes. Well, I mean, for looking at it, I mean, the most similar precedent cases there would be what, like Ben Roethlisberger?
Well,
Yeah, he
Jameis
got
only got
6
2
for-
games. That's like the
but
most recent quarterback to get into a sexual misconduct thing, but that was one Uber driver
one-off.
versus. Yeah, it was a
Zeke-
one-off situation. It was a civil suit. I could see it being like a Hunt Antonio Brown situation where it's 8 to 10 games.
Well, I mean, we mentioned, like, for example, and all our rookie running backs just went off the board as soon as we started talking about them. But I mean, at least we got Jacoby Brissett. We're chilling. Because I was about to ask, I'm like, would you go with like a rookie running back type, or would you take? I'm not even going to say his name type in this type of area with our construction. Hopefully, MVP doesn't take him, so I can actually say his name.
I think McKissick's fine.
Oh God, Wait, Christian Watson. That's not a bad value for Christian Watson. I think he's guaranteed to be a top 50 pick in the draft.
Ooh, man, have you watched him? I thought he sucked.
I have not. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
watching Jahan Dotson later today, and then I'm gonna
Nice.
watch Watson and Justin Ross tomorrow.
Enjoy those guys. Christian Watson, he'll probably go top 75. I don't want to deal with him.
The numbers just tell me he's a fucking screaming bust. Like that's just the
know.
numbers are like they're not good enough. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like it's tough because he's gonna get drafted high.
Yeah, somebody will do it. It'll be a bad team. That's my projection. He'll go to a bad team that reaches on
Houston
him.
at the top of the second round.
This year's Nico Collins, perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, fucking Nico Collins might have even been better.
I think Nico Collins was better, straight up.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched Watson yet, but the athleticism is really the only thing holding him up right now. And I guess the fact that these NFL teams seem to think he was the best receiver in the Senior Bowl, and like that counts for something because they're like actually practicing football, not just like doing athletic drills. But I mean, typically receivers at the Senior Bowl are not the ones we want for fantasy. All the ones we want for fantasy were early declares.
I want somebody, and I kind of friends with Eric Alco, who runs a Shrine Bowl. I want the Underclassmen Bowl. Now that is a bowl that I'm ready to go for.
Yes.
Give me the
But what underclassmen's going to actually do?
No,
Like they're all going to
we're getting everybody out there, and we're doing the Underclassmen Bowl where we're actually ready to draft some of these guys.
Yeah, where we can watch Derek Stingley line up against Drake.
Now we're
London and see
talking.
what we got on our hands.
We need the Underclassmen Bowl. Maybe Underdog should start this thing. I'll get it fired up myself.
You could, yeah. I'd imagine half these guys would opt out of it though. Like maybe if they don't play a game, even if it's just like a practice week or whatever, like that would definitely be really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking with Andrew. I mean, another idea that I was thinking, man, you guys got to have a combine with all of us. Just like bring a bunch of the boys out, bench press, 40-yard dash, you name it, man. We're about to set
what is the bench press? Are we doing like 135 pounds? We're not doing 225.
Oh, I might throw 135 up one time.
Yeah.
Like we
so
go 225 and I'm going to have a serious neck injury.
What about
could I do like 85% body? Oh,
that works.
Shoot, I just clicked. Sorry. Yeah, we can do that next round though. My bad.
He had his pro day today, I believe, right? Trey McBride.
4.56, I heard.
Really, eh?
4.56.
Really? That's much faster than what I thought. I would have gone
because he has
4.62,
good production.
4.66.
He's one of the only tight ends in this class that has good production.
Yeah, let me just make sure, but I believe it was 4.56 I saw on Twitter today.
I don't think I've spoken a word about this tight end class, like legitimately for like the last 3 months. I don't think I've said a damn thing about them.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, there goes Brevin Jordan off the board too.
It got tweeted that unofficial was 4.54, and then somebody else clocked 4.56.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
he's got some size too, right? He's like 250 at least, right?
He's definitely an inline guy. I thought he played much slower than that. I watched him and I was like, yikes. But
yeah,
I can totally be wrong on him for sure.
Have you watched the Virginia guy, the guy that tested out the gym?
Yeah, Jelani
that
Woods,
dude. Right? Chaos, absolute menace out there. He had one of my favorite highlights ever. He caught this pass. It was like 4th and 15 and like truck stick this guy with his like forehead like this and then like sprinted, and he's like so lengthy. He had like one of the most ridiculous highlights ever. I thought he broke his neck, but the other guy like completely collapsed. He's a menace.
Dude, it's funny you mentioned that because I mean the main guys I've heard Dallas has been looking at, the Cowboys have been Jelani Woods and Cade Otton. Like those are guys that they've been really, really looking into.
Opposites, complete opposites.
Complete opposites.
Yeah.
I mean, Otton's like your Jason Witten type. Jelani would be your Blake Jarwin replacement. They're completely different players. But like that kind of goes to show you their thoughts about keeping Dalton Schultz long term if you want to take any type of dynasty aspect away from that.
Yeah. Dalton Schultz might mess around and get for 808 this year, though. So
and then walk.
See.
Yeah. Oh, this year, no, I'm perfectly fine with him. Next year, though, not on. Like, I doubt he's back.
Yeah,
especially because
on the Watson discussion, Jeffrey in the comments said something about Goodell making comments that depending on how many civil cases are cleared by the time that they have to make a decision might indicate how many games are, if he clears 15 of these things or something like that and they're like settled or whatever, that could impact how many games he gets suspended. But I mean, even if he has like 4 of these cases still active, I have to imagine he's still going to get at least 4 or 5 games at minimum.
Yeah, the Big Ben thing was civil too. Zeke Elliott, civil. So there's precedent, even if it's civil settled, that he can get thrown in the back. Basically, Goodell's like, did you make me look bad? And even if he was gets these things settled, like having 22 masseuses not team related is highly sus. And I think that even just with that, he can get multiple games.
Are we going Austin Hooper here? I think I think
it.
They did miss that element of their offense this year without Jonnu. I think it makes sense.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to quickly mention with Watson. I know someone brought this up, but it is pretty interesting when you think about it. He's a professional athlete making millions of dollars a year. Don't you think he'd be at all more careful or at least more cautious with who's handling that business for him? Wouldn't you have your one set?
You have a person like a go-to person or a go-to.
You have your go-to person that can handle your massage. Because I mean, like, there's so much that can go wrong. Maybe
I don't think anybody's touched Tom Brady other than Alex Guerrero in the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Not even his wife.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's take a look at the team here. We got our wide receiver core filled out a while ago. Running backs are still looking a little suspect depth-wise because if we have an injury, we're going to be kind of screwed. But I guess you can't really come from that frame that, if you have one injury, you're screwed because, typically you need health to be on your side to win these tournaments anyway. But at running back, do we have anything available? My firstborn son is still on the board.
Yeah, I mean it's between him and obviously
and Hayden's firstborn son is right below him.
We're Trey Sermon. I love that they re-signed Jeff Wilson. I hope that they just say perfect. That's enough for the running back group, and we're one hamstring away from old Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon is getting. I saw somebody comment, "What if he's Ronald Jones again?" Where Trey Sermon got, the Ronald Jones rookie year where nobody thought he was like worthy of anything. And it may have been like a maturity thing. Like I know personally, like as a Bucs fan, it was 100% a maturity thing for Rojo his rookie year. Is it possible that that's the case with Trey Sermon and he got the Ayuk treatment except for 17 games? Like it's possible. I wasn't a huge Sermon guy as a prospect, so I don't want to speak on Sermon.
I heard that he's I heard that he's a good dude. The coaches loved him at Ohio State and all that stuff. I think that he was just slow. And that's my biggest worry is he's just too slow. And Shanahan said enough already with this. But I think the offense will change. I don't think they'll run the same type of rushing plays with Trey Lance as they did with Jimmy G. And if it's more inside zone versus outside zone, I think that what they're looking for could change it a little bit. And we're hoping for get a couple games due to injury. I think that's totally fine here.
Let me make sure OJ Howard's not at top of the queue just in case.
I have, speaking of OJ Howard, my favorite last second tight end is Cameron Brate. OJ Howard is gone. Gronk is very 50-50 to be playing this year. Cameron Brate could be Tom Brady's starting tight end with zero competition. And Cameron Brate is totally fine as a player. If Cameron Brate's a starter, he can have 8 touchdowns this year. That would not surprise me.
He could, but he literally is the definite. He's like the new. Did Zach Ertz make a play? Like get any yards after catch? Like he falls down when he catches the ball. Like he is the definition of a fall down tight end.
Yeah.
So
it's just those touchdowns.
Do we want to go with an Algier type or a James White
go
type?
With like Michelle or
Algier.
I like Algier. Dude. I love Algier.
Let's do Algier. Let's rip
Take that upside there.
Pray to God he goes in the 3rd round sometime.
Well, I kind of want to touch upon a little bit with James White because I do feel like
we had so much exposure to James White last year,
and it looked genius before he got hurt. This guy was getting absolutely peppered, and I mean, realistically here, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris are not going to be taking James White's role away from James White. And James White's going to be back. So realistically here, why are we just kind of ignoring the fact that when James White is healthy and when James White is on the field, James White catches passes, and catching passes leads to fantasy points.
Yeah.
It's usually his hip. Yeah. It was the hip injury. That's the one worry with me, is like he had a gnarly hip injury, but at the same time, tone setting Jacob Johnson, they said that he's not going to be back with the team. I think that was one of the most underrated things from this offseason. That tells me that the Patriots are completely changing their offense, new offensive coordinator. I can see them getting rid of this like run first identity and goes more spread stuff that Mac Jones was comfortable with at Alabama. They get a Drake London or somebody in the first round.
It's JMO. It's JMO. I know they perfect. I know it is
replace Nelson. Be perfect. 2 tight end sets. JMO on the outside. You have Jacoby Myers, who's a totally fine possession receiver, and all of a sudden it's just like pass rate is top 10 instead of bottom 10. I thought that like getting rid of that fullback, I thought was pretty big news for the Patriots.
Noted tone setter. Yeah.
Jacob does set the tone. I mean, if your name is Jacob Johnson, you're definitely like, it's over. Like
they got a lot of like diverse names on that roster. Don't they still have the one like Finnish offensive lineman too? That they took from West Virginia a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. They have Gunner.
Kajust.
Yodny Kajust. Yeah. I think he's Finnish or something like that. But they got a lot of cool names on there. They had Gunnar Olszewski and stuff too. Like,
yeah. Danny, have you watched tone setting Damian Pierce yet?
I have not.
You're gonna love him, Danny. You're gonna love him.
There is a hive for Damian Pierce that I've seen. There's some people that got him
RB3. I've seen him RB3. Yes.
Damian runs hard, man. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, heck.
I think he's kind of like, he's got the same skill set from what I've seen of him. He's got the same skill set that Spiller does by the looks of it. Like, I don't know how much of like receiving production he has and stuff like that, but both like physical runners and stuff and similar athletics as well. So that kind of does make sense.
Another one I want to add
on him. I think he might be a little bit of a plotter.
Sorry, the one I actually really wanted to ask you about that in terms of profile is intriguing. What are your thoughts on Pierre Strong? Because
I haven't watched him yet.
Okay.
Has anybody accessed his film? Because I cannot find it anywhere.
Well, I mean, like, he goes to what?
Do we need another tight end? I think we need another tight end, don't we?
We have 3.
We can go.
I think we could use a 4th, to be honest.
Should we go Kyron? I mean, he was going completely undrafted now, and
plus he's going to go to the Cardinals. Let's be honest; he's the Chase Edmonds replacement.
Oh, I think Kyron Williams to the Bucks as the Geo replacement. He duo runs at Notre Dame, duo runs in Tampa Bay. Get that compliment.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Bucks are notoriously bad at drafting running backs.
Yeah,
I could totally see them like taking a guy that like probably shouldn't go in like the 3rd round, like Kyron Williams. But I could also see them doing something even stupider and taking like Brian Robinson in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Bucks are going to draft a running back. I personally would love them to draft, like a Bam Knight or something that you can mix into your offense now, who can both be a change of pace from Fournette and also contribute as a receiver. I think that would make some sense. But Kyron Williams, I mean, he obviously is the best receiving back still available on the board for us, other than James White, probably.
Well, let me just take a look real quick because Pierre Strong, because I know I was mentioning, but Pierre Strong, like his profile was pretty.
He's older as well, but like his production is like obviously pretty good.
He's older, but I mean, in his first year, I mean, keep in mind this is South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Like let's take it with a grain of salt to a degree, but I mean, 117 carries, put up over 1,100 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns as a first-year player. And we saw throughout his college trajectory that his receiving workload increased. He went from 6 receptions as a first-year player to 22 in his final year. If he gets relatively decent draft capital, I mean, we're talking, I don't expect him to go in the first 2 days, but if he goes, 4th round and gets an opportunity, like he's got a decent profile. I really want to see if
his he was really athlete too at the combine.
4.37,
86 percentile in my stuff.
Yeah. Sure. His math bomb score was really, really high from what I saw too. So go to the team. We'll just kind of review it real quick. I got to head out of here in a couple minutes. But we can review the team here. We got, questionable quarterback 3 to say the least. I would say if Desmond Ridder can get on the field, that's pretty easily the deciding point of this team for the quarterback position. But even if he doesn't, like those 2 guys, as long as they can stay healthy, should be 90% of our weeks anyway.
Yep. And like realistically, while we don't want to have a flex player in the super flex on a bye week, like with this type of construction, worst case scenario, if we were forced to do that, it wouldn't be the end of the world because we have, our locked in 2 here, our locked in 3 here. Like, even if we had to roll out, Marquise Brown on the Superflex in a freaking bye week, like, I'm more than fine with that.
Yeah. And I think Brissett's going to start. Hopefully we get early bye weeks for Kyler Murray and Trey Lance, and Brissett, by the time he's still starting, he's getting in there.
Yeah, and maybe it works out to the point that Brissett and Ritter kind of their timelines kind of coincide with each other, where Brissett starts the first 8 games or something like that. Matt Ryan, they want to see what they got in the young kid. If he goes to Indianapolis or whatever team he ends up going to, wants to trot out the rookie for the last 10 games of the season and see how he does. Ritter could have like a Jalen Hurts, back half of his rookie season.
Yep.
I do think he's going to be a second-round quarterback. I don't think he's going to go in the first, but I also don't think he's going to go in the third or fourth or whatever. I think he's going to go in the second round.
Well, I mean, if the Lions don't go with Malik Willis at 2,
I like
They're going to take Sam Howell at 32, Danny. I was
going to say 32 or 34. You can pencil in a Howell or Desmond Ritter, to be honest. I could see that happening.
If Sam Howell goes 32 to the Detroit Lions, he's going to be a top 6 rookie pick for me. I'm not even capping. That is going to happen.
For sure. So we can go off to the running back position here. We kind of got, our 2 anchors, and then upside. I mean, obviously with Rashad White, Hayden's RB3. We're expecting
definitely a shaky foundation at the running back position, but if a couple,
it's how you win these things.
Yeah, we definitely have a chance still. And J.D. McKissick, I mean, he was like equally as productive as Antonio Gibson on like the odd weeks. They were like interchanging production for the first like 10 games of the year. So.
For sure. But yeah, obviously a lot heavier of build, a lot heavier of construction, because I mean, realistically, after those first 2, we shot for upside. We finished out our wide receiver core in the mid rounds, and then we just
and our wide receiver core is absolutely luxurious.
Like, this is when you're talking about Drake London being your wide receiver 6, like, you're in a good spot.
And correlated
even Marquise Brown and Brandon Ayuk, Ayuk, once he got out of the doghouse, was a top 15 receiver in points per game last year. And Marquise Brown, I never saw 150 targets in his range of outcomes, but the fact that he was commanding that kind of volume and the big plays disappeared with without Lamar Jackson once he got hurt. If Lamar Jackson can stay healthy this year, Marquise Brown showed that he was a true 3-level wide receiver 1 versus the only deep threat that we'd seen in years past, and then the only short threat that we saw with Huntley.
Yep, for sure. And then obviously at tight end, finish it out. Obviously Ertz, I mean, if he's healthy, he should be.
He was phenomenal. And in DFS, man, I was rolling him out every single week in DFS for the longest time last year because nobody was playing him, and he was literally getting like 8 targets a game when he first got to Arizona.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're talking about it, I mean, realistically here, if he plays a full healthy season, like, what's his range of outcomes? Like, tight end 5 to tight end 10?
For sure.
I was about like tight end 5 to tight end 10. Like, if he stays fully healthy, there's no way he's finishing below tight end 10. And
he could definitely be like this year's Gronkowski too, the older tight end that everyone forgets about. Like, I think he's going to have some steam because they paid him. They're going to follow the money and stuff. But it wouldn't shock me if he's the second leading target on this team, or even the first potentially. Like if Hopkins deals with more injuries and his age caught up with him or something. For
sure, and then obviously with McBride just shooting for upside as a rookie. I mean,
I probably would have went with a 4th tight end, but I think
that's like the debate. Should we have gone? It's basically that Rondale pick. Should that have been a tight end? But I think with the correlation, I'm fine with that. It's like, should we have gone another tight end or running back? But that's the right decision, and I think that we made the right decision. I think most people would have done another tight end instead of the quarterback 4, but quarterbacks score twice as many points as tight ends just on underdog scoring. So I would rather, if I am going to be behind on a position, I want it to be tight end, because you're just not going to beat me at tight end. If you are losing at quarterback, you are just absolutely getting smoked.
Yeah. Well, I had a team in Best Ball Mania that advanced to like the 2nd or 3rd round or whatever. And I didn't have a tight end on my team. I had Adam Troutman, Irv Smith, and like guys that like didn't play or weren't, productive whatsoever. And they were like my tight ends for the year. And the rest of my roster was carried by the fact that I had like Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel on that team.
Yep. Tight ends don't matter.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to quickly say, I mean, realistically, a floor, obviously your floor can be lower, but a floor range of outcomes for a starting quarterback, like unusual, is what, like 12 points?
Yeah. The quarterbacks smash.
Unless they're completely abysmal, like you can lock and load 12 points there.
Unless you're Jared Goff in cold weather, you're pretty much going to get like 12 points every time.
So. I mean, for the tight end position, realistically, if they don't catch a touchdown, any other tight end apart from the elites getting to 12 points without a touchdown
impossible.
is going to be really tough. Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So I fully agree with you there. And then obviously with Austin Hooper, I mean, gets a change of scenery there in Tennessee. Obviously, Forster wasn't able to live up to that role last year that they kind of missed without Jonnu being there. Like obviously as a main tight, obviously Forster was there, but you know what I mean there. Austin Hooper's a lot more proven than what Forster was coming into last year. So getting him in there, I mean, who knows? Maybe he catches 6-7 touchdowns on a team that is going to be absolutely running over the division, in my opinion, apart from the Colts.
So a lot of tight end talk. We talked about tight end for a while.
Anyway, that was kind of yucky, but yeah.
Okay, so if you guys enjoyed the stream, if you've been here this whole time, again, leave a like as always, comment, subscribe. Underdog is catching us, and I'm going to shout out Hayden's channel in a second. Underdog Fantasy Football. Check them out. They're doing great content, especially during the season. You guys with your usage stuff was top notch. It was the best in the business. But Underdog is very close to us in subscribers. So if you are going to go and subscribe to Hayden and Josh over on Underdog's YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed here as well, so that we can stay slightly ahead of them. I believe they're at like 9.3K right now. We're about like 9.5K. So we got to stay just a notch ahead of them if possible.
It's a race to 10,000. Well,
yeah. For sure.
All right.
For sure.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Your guys' channel is amazing. I think the biggest thing I keep telling Josh is interact with the chat. Your channel does that better with anybody's. And I think it's like one of my goals this offseason to like make sure to get the chat involved. I think that you guys do that better than anybody else.
Appreciate that. And again, Hayden Winks over on Twitter. It's just at Hayden Winks, I believe, right?
Yep. No one else got my name.
Yeah, for sure. And then you got Underblog, I believe it's probably linked in your Twitter bio somewhere or something like that. So he's always, pumping out articles for Underdogs, written content as well. So can't forget about that stuff. Again, thanks for joining us. Peace out, guys. We'll talk to you soon.